Apples are the best. From mom's apple pie to the tale of Johnny Appleseed, we love our apples. Apples have a reputation for being hard to grow. The truth is, that's because people often pick a variety that is not well suited to their climate. And many botanists, including extension agents, will say it's impossible to grow apples without dousing them with chemicals several times a year. Don't listen to them. It is possible to grow healthy and productive apple trees using organic methods. Choosing the right variety is the first step in growing healthy apples. Apples are not one size fits all. Different varieties do well or not so well in different climates. To help you decide, take the time to read tree descriptions and catalogs, talk to your local extension officer, or ask neighbors what varieties they have that are doing well. In addition to choosing apples that will do well in your area, there are several types of apples. Apples are often grouped by those best for storing, cooking, eating fresh, or making cider. So give some thought about what you want to do with your apples. There's a good reason for the expression, an apple a day keeps the doctor away. Apples are very nutritious. They are high in fiber, vitamin C, and antioxidants. Hi, I'm Amy, and welcome back to my channel where I talk about organic gardening and wildlife conservation. I just published my latest book on growing fruit, and it's available on Amazon. It covers 16 kinds of fruit and a couple of perennial vegetables as well. So here are my favorites. The Liberty apple was developed to be a hardy, disease-resistant tree, which is one reason I purchased one. They are resistant to a number of apple diseases, including my nemesis, fire blight. My Liberty has avoided problems that have affected other trees in my orchard. Liberty has a sweet tart flavor. They cook up well, however, they don't store very well. Gala is often recommended for Zone 6 growers. The apples are sweet and smell heavenly. The trees produce abundant amounts of smaller fruits that do need to be thinned. I did not thin one year and had very small apples, so I learned my lesson. They are considered a fresh eating apple and not considered a great cooking apple. However, I've used them for applesauce and it was delicious. Cox Orange Pippin is my favorite apple tree, in part because it was a beloved tree in the garden of Roald Dahl. Dahl is one of my favorite children's authors, and he was an accomplished gardener and cook. And I named my first rescue fox after him. The Cox Orange Pippin is a hardy tree that is pest resistant. Pippins have been popular in breeding programs because they pass on those hardy traits. The fruit is fantastic for fresh eating and is sweet, crunchy, and has hints of tropical mango. They ripen in mid to late September. They don't store well, but ours never lasted that long anyway. If you're interested in espalier, they are well suited for training to a wall or wires. I love the taste of Honeycrisp apples. I've tried to grow them twice, and both times have lost the trees to fire blight. They have a reputation as being resistant to blights, and I have not had any success. I will talk more about fire blight when I get to fruit diseases. Now we are ready to get planting. Besides happy kids, you will need a wheelbarrow and a shovel so you can mix amendments into the soil. These are the amendments I recommend. You may have seen this recipe in my other fruit videos. Mix the following ingredients in your wheelbarrow: soil, peat moss, compost, bone meal, fish meal. For vegans, you can substitute cottonseed meal. While this method takes more time than digging a hole and sticking in a tree, it'll pay off huge dividends in the long run. Dig a hole with enthusiasm. The most important thing about planting a fruit tree is the hole. Think of it as your tree's home. If you get your tree off to a good start, then it will reward you for many years. Dig a hole at least twice as wide as the diameter of your plant's roots and at least 2 feet deep. Fruit trees grow best at a pH between 6.5 and 7.0. If your pH level is not in that range, no worries. pH is a fairly easy fix. Put about 6 inches of my formula mix at the bottom of the hole. Hold the tree so that the scion is just above the ground. That is the bump in the trunk where the graft was made. Never put that bump below the surface of the soil. Tamp the soil down so that it is firm around the roots. You don't want the tree to wiggle back and forth. You will want to have a good composting system set up. I have several composting videos to help you get started, but every year you will want to spread compost around your tree to add nutrients. I typically purchase some bare root fruits every year. This is my favorite catalog, Fedco. If you ordered your trees online, they may have become a bit dehydrated while in the mail. Soak the tree's roots for a few hours before planting. If you are purchasing locally, you will want to check the roots in the pot to make sure they are not root bound. Trim off any roots that are making a circle and wrapping themselves around other roots. Water the tree well its first year. It'll need about an inch of rain or about 2 gallons of water each week for a young tree. A good mulch around the base of the tree will help keep moisture in. Straw and wood chips both make a good organic covering. When using organic mulches, keep the mulch away from the tree trunk about 6 inches. This helps to prevent disease and to keep rodents from taking up residence. I have also used circular mulch made from recycled tires. The material is woven so it stops the grass from growing but allows for water to seep through. They contain a slit on the side and are easy to just place around the trunk. If you are in an area, say near a field, that may have a high population of mice and rabbits, then you may need tree trunk protection. A tree guard is a plastic wrap with holes in it that is wound loosely around the trunk. In addition, it offers the tree protection from wind and cold. However, in warm, humid weather, they can contribute to fungal buildup and should be avoided. Fruit trees are also beautiful in the landscape. Dwarf and semi-dwarf varieties fit in well in an urban garden and can even be placed in the front yard. Apples are a great specimen tree and will provide lots of fruit. A dwarf apple can produce up to 150 pounds and a semi-dwarf up to 400 pounds. That's a lot of apples. Columnar apple trees on dwarf rootstocks fit well in a pot between 18 and 22 inches in diameter. You can also look for containers with a volume of 20 to 30 gallons. When you plan to grow in pots, it's important to consider the rootstock. M26 and M9 are both good for fruit trees. When planting in pots, make sure you use a light potting soil like this coconut coir compost. The advantage of pots is being able to tailor your soil. Espalier fruit trees are a practical way to grow fruit in a limited space. Espalier is a French word that means to rest against a wall. They are great to grow up against buildings and walls. Espaliers need to be carefully trained and grown on a framework, so dedicated pruning. I talk about them a bit more in my fruit book, and it's on my list to do a video on them explaining some of the pruning techniques. As your tree grows, you will want to train it so it has a nice shape. You'll want the tree to be open so the sunlight and air can get in. In late winter, prune out dead or broken branches. Remove any branches that are crossing in front of others. Pruning is important for fruit development and helps to keep down diseases by providing good air circulation. Once your tree becomes productive and the fruits start to develop, it may be necessary to thin the fruit. This is true in some varieties more than others, such as Gala apples and Bartlett pears. Thinning leads to larger and healthier fruits. Most apple trees need another apple tree for pollination to produce fruit. Apple trees require cross-pollination. For best results, plant at least 2 different apple tree varieties within 100 feet of each other. Crab apples can also pollinate domestic apples. Without pollinators, you won't get any apples, so plan to put your trees near an area where bees, flies, and butterflies visit. Your trees will benefit from local insects and will attract pollinators when they bloom. You may want to raise your own bees. One benefit of livestock in the orchard is manure, right where you need it. I rake it so that it's along the drip line of the tree and let it decompose. I've heard that well behaved horses don't bother the trees in an orchard. This makes me chuckle because my rescue horse Rocket is not quote unquote well behaved. He is a tad spoiled, and he has used more than one tree as a rubbing post. If you are in an area with lots of deer, then you may want to build a cage around your young trees. Use woven fencing to make a circle about 1 foot from the tree trunk. Use metal fencing posts to keep them in place. So, pests. There are a lot of them, but don't stress out. They are manageable. I have a free download on the website with my orchard maintenance plan. The larvae of the codling moth are considered a serious orchard threat and can cause your apples to fall off the tree. If your apples have worms, this is the pest. The adult codling moth lays her egg at the top of an apple. The eggs hatch and the larvae burrow down inside the fruit. Use organic controls such as Monterey insect spray. Hanging sticky traps also works well to catch the adults. When the apple falls from the tree, the larvae crawl out and hide in the soil. They then emerge as an adult to repeat the process. Typically, 2 generations hatch out every season. Having chickens in the orchard can help reduce populations as they readily eat the larvae. I keep chickens in tractors and then I just pull them around. In summer, hang traps for apple maggot fly to either control or monitor. If you are having a problem, spray with spinosad. Apple maggots are widespread throughout the USA. The adult flies overwinter in the soil. They emerge in the spring and lay eggs under the skin of young apples. The eggs hatch into small white larvae which tunnel down into the fruit. When the fruit falls, they go into a pupa stage and crawl into the soil. There is just one generation per season. To control, clean up around your trees and don't let fruit rot on the ground. The gypsy moth is an invasive species that eats everything, including leaves, flowers, and fruits on your fruit trees. Unfortunately, they are not picky at all. This is a case where wildlife is your friend. The caterpillar stage is a food source for wild birds, squirrels, and opossums. In addition, the eggs are eaten by wasps and flies. You can destroy the eggs. Sticky traps will help catch the adults. Fire blight. This is the fruit tree disease that I battled in my Kentucky 6B orchard. I can tell you I've tried many control practices, and sometimes I still have lost trees like my Honey Crisp. It affects apples and also pears. Fire blight is a bacteria that attacks blossoms, fruits, leaves, and branches of growing trees. I think when you support a young tree in the first few years, then they can fight it off as they become older. The bacterium overwinters and cankers that it forms on branches and trunks. You can prune out these branches and destroy them. If you burn them, keep the fire away from the orchard. It can be transferred in the smoke. While pruning, it's important to disinfect your tools in between trees. Pick resistant varieties such as Liberty and Williams Pride. Have good airflow and never use overhead watering. Having a clean orchard is important. Clean up and remove fallen fruits and branches. Serenade and neem oil are 2 good organic fungal preventers. If you are new to raising fruits, know that they will not look like the perfect specimens in the grocery store. To get that perfection, growers do use a lot of chemical pesticides and cover the fruits in a wax coating. Not only is that not healthy for you, it's bad for the environment. Congratulations on raising healthy organic food. Different varieties of apples are ready at different times. Each tree will have a typical maturity date. There are summer, fall, and winter maturing apples. When an apple matures, it's partly based on the variety and partly based on your climate. For me, Lodi's ripen the earliest in late July, Galas in early September, and Granny Smith in later fall. I try to plan my fruits so that I have a long season of fruits coming in. Start by examining the apple. Mature apples will be firm, have good coloring, and develop the shape typical for the species. The best way to is to pick a fruit and take a bite. Does it taste good? Is the flesh the color and texture it should be? Then it's ready. You don't have to plant your orchard all at once. Make a master plan and plant a couple of trees every year. That way, you are working towards a self sufficient garden without being overwhelmed. Please boop that like button and subscribe to my channel for more organic gardening tips. I hope you have a fabulous day.